So let's go ahead and look at the depth chart. We'll talk about our positions of concern. And this, of course, will lead us into eventually talking about the schedule and some of our predictions. And again, I'll just tell you my prediction. I'm more confident in my position, in my prediction right now than I have been maybe since 2016. That one didn't work out the way we wanted 2016 to work out, but we'll get to that. So let's talk about the depth chart. And Noah, you're going to kind of take the lead with our depth chart. So let's start at quarterback. We thought maybe there was some competition this spring. I think reality is that Kirk Ferentz is more comfortable with Petras than anyone else. He is going to be the starter week 1. If Spencer Petras does not perform weeks 1 or 2, and they're 0-2, which they very well could be against those two opponents, perhaps we see a change, but I think it would take a lot. Kids Day really looked to be a step forward for Petras as far as separation from Alex Padilla. But give us a rundown of the quarterback depth chart as it's listed right now preseason.
Okay, so this is on ourlads.com, last updated August 10th. According to what they've got here, Petras is the starter. Padilla is second. Deuce Hogan is third. And Joey Labus, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Joey Labus, yeah.
Joey Labus, who's a freshman. So we're not going to see him for a few years probably. But
true freshman, just got on campus. A lot of hype around him, but there's also a lot of hype around Deuce Hogan. And Hogan right now, everything we've seen, Alex Padilla is the backup quarterback. And he was a highly touted kid. Georgia wanted him. But I think a lot of people expected Deuce to come in here and kind of seize this thing. And I could see Deuce transferring this year if he doesn't see the field and Petras is rolling. Remember, Petras and all these guys have an extra year of eligibility because of COVID. So Petras, as of right now, is listed as a redshirt junior, but technically he could be a redshirt sophomore if he were to choose to stay an extra year. So that's something to note there. So let's talk about quarterback. Obviously, it's Petras' job to lose Alex. Early on last year, we saw Petras struggle, but then they win their final 6 games. Petras plays a lot better down the stretch. I think of games against Wisconsin. First half against Penn State was better, and then second half against Illinois, and a comeback was a lot better. Nebraska, again, back and forth. Don't think it was a total turnaround for Spencer, but he did send the team to 6 straight wins behind a very solid running game. But those first 2 games were bad. You're up 17-0 against Northwestern. We've talked about this at length. I think part of it was play calling. You throw the ball 51 times. That's not a recipe for success when you're up 17-0, right?
And another interesting note about that, you were talking about the Northwestern game, right?
Yeah.
In week 2. He had 3 interceptions that week.
Yeah, a lot of them were coming at bad times. Again, I don't think Brian Ferentz put Petras in a position to succeed in that game. I don't understand the game plan of throwing the ball 51 times to the quarterback who isn't playing well when you're up 17-0 at home, right? But it kind of played right in Northwestern's hands. But again, we just saw that instability from Petras early in the season, and that was without crowds. Okay. There was no crowd at West Lafayette week 1, and Petras really struggled, has problems running in the fastball. Alex, what are your kind of overreaching thoughts about Spencer heading into 2 very difficult games once again? More difficult than last year. Of course, he's got more experience, but very difficult opponents weeks 1 and 2.
Well, I think it is a different story this year because he has the experience and he's kind of been there, done that, but they're also going to be at home. They're going to have the help of a crowd. And, I think he's going to have a little better grip, a little bit better handle on his game, and hopefully he'll be a little more relaxed.
Reining in the fastball, again, was an issue. Micaiah, we saw that a bit with Nate Stanley. I'm going to turn to you again here because, as you and I both know, Nate Stanley's fighting for a roster spot in Minnesota. Don't think he's going to get it, given the fact, too, that he has been on COVID reserve because he refuses to get the vaccine. That's his decision, but that does not help his chances of making the roster. I think we'd all agree on that. But Stanley struggled at times with reining in the fastball. What does Petrus need to do, or maybe what do we hope he has done in order to correct that? Again, right off the bat this season.
I hope he's been spending time working on just putting in reps. When you throw with that kind of velocity, it's really, really hard to be pinpoint accurate, which you need to be from that 5 to maybe all the way out to about 15 yards, that more intermediate passing range. It's hard to be accurate when you throw hard. And in that kind of space, you're throwing between linebackers, you're trying to fit between backs and safeties, or to get it underneath of the linebackers, and you're fitting it into really small gaps. You have to be pinpoint accurate. And more than anything, it's timing with your receivers, which is just practice. That's just running the same plays over and over again. And it's developing the muscle memory in your arm to be able to put the ball exactly where you want it, to have confidence that it's going to be there so you're willing to make that throw as well.
And Alex, I remember talking about that first game last year with you, and Spencer really, he was throwing bullets, rifling the ball downfield wherever the ball was. We're talking 30-yard passes, and he's just, literally like a rocket down the field, and just no chance. And let's be honest. We're going to get to Sam Laporta. I think Sam Laporta is going to be the next great tight end at Iowa. I think he's going to be the next great NFL tight end at Iowa. I really do. I think he's going to be a starter someday in the NFL. Now, again, things can change. Injuries can affect things, but he did his best in that game. I remember trying to catch these balls. Smith Marset, I remember getting very frustrated in that game. He struggled, but I think overall we just saw a very, very nervous performance from a guy who is very confident about himself, but just never really was able to get into the groove until week 5, week 6 at the earliest. Now you add in fans, especially week 2 against Iowa State. How does that affect his play calling, his composure? Does that worry you, Alex, given his struggles throughout all of those games? These were consistent struggles without really much of a road environment to deal with.
Yeah, I do think that the rifling passes seems to be something that happens with quarterbacks who are nervous for some reason. Maybe they feel like it helps them, not have to put so much touch on the ball if they're, I guess it's better to throw too hard than it is to pull up on a pass. I'm not sure, but it's definitely a concern. We've had the same issues for a while now with Nate Stanley, now Petrus. So we definitely don't want to see that same stuff going on. We want to see Petrus have more touch, and I think he is. I think he's a better passer than Stanley. He seems like, even at this point in his career, like he's a more skilled passer. So I think he should be able to rein that in. And like I said, hopefully the nerves won't be as much of a factor, since this will be a little bit different scenario than it was starting last year.
And so right out of the gates, you get Indiana at home, you get Iowa State on the road. And I think a big part of Spencer's development is going to be, does he have a running game he can rely on, which really helped him settle in last year as the season wore on. And again, 6 straight wins is some momentum heading into this season.
Do you want the results of the last project that I worked on that I never got a chance to share?
From last year?
No, from earlier in this podcast.
Okay. Sure.
It has to do with the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you say Nathan Stanley performed in his last year at Iowa?
Performed. What do you?
How good was he? Good, great.
He was okay.
Average.
I think he was a very good leader, but completion percentage was never a forte for Nate Stanley.
Right.
We would all. In fact, I think he was under 50% in high school.
So in his last year, Nate Stanley had a 59.4% completion percentage and just shy of 3,000 yards.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at this level to not be able to complete 60% of your passes. It's just not.
Now, here's the reason I thought of it. Yeah. Exactly. Here's the reason I thought of it. You compare Petrus last year, he finished the year with a 57% completion percentage. And if you take Stanley's total yards from the last year, 2019, and trim that down, average it, and trim it down to 8 games like last season, he comes out with around 1,800 yards, 300 yards ahead of Petrus, his total yards for the season.
But again, we're comparing a Nate Stanley senior year performance to a Petrus sophomore first year performance.
That is true.
Having not had a spring practice. So I give Petrus a bit of a pass there. From the eye test, I think Stanley was much better than Petrus. I don't think, Alex, you were necessarily talking about straight up that you would, at this point, rather have Petrus than Stanley, but I think you're talking more potential. Am I right in saying that? I don't think you can possibly say that Petrus was better than Stanley, probably any of Stanley's seasons last year.
No, I'm going more by potential, and I think that it's hard to judge a guy off of, a sophomore year, but also because Stanley didn't really improve that much over his career. And, if that's what happens with Petrus, that would suck, but we'll have to wait and see.
I will say, at least in the completion percentage side of it, between Stanley's sophomore and junior year, there was a 4% jump from 55 to 59%.
And yet that didn't grow after he kind of plateaued, right? I mean, that's kind of the Iowa quarterback
in his
shtick.
Junior and senior years, they were basically identical. But on the flip side of that, his touchdown and interceptions, Stanley's, in his sophomore year, 26 touchdowns to 6 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers bear it out. I mean, Nate Stanley was a very successful quarterback at Iowa, very successful, won several bowl games. And so let's slide down the depth chart further. Let's go to the fullback position, Noah, which is one of your favorite positions in the field, I know. And I believe
that's because he is a fullback.
Yeah, Monty Pottebaum will lead us off there, and I think Monty played well last year, as every fullback at Iowa seems to.
Yeah, that's a position that you can always rely on. It's a very understated position, but every fullback in Iowa does their job well. So as you said, Monty Pottebaum starts off as the starter. Turner Palisard is the second string, and Johnny Plewa is the third string.
Yeah, it's actually pronounced Pleva, and if you remember, Macon Pleva, his older brother, was the starter at Iowa after, I believe, Adam Cox, if I have that correct in my mind, right in the same time as Drake Kulik. Anyways, kind of a family history there of fullbacks. So we see less and less fullback usage throughout college football. Even at Iowa, we see a little bit less. We're going to see, I think, more two running back sets. We saw that late in the year, even sliding a wide receiver back there like Tyrone Tracy. I think we'll see we've got quite a bit more depth at wide receiver, even though they lost Smith. Let's go on to running back, because we know the guy at running back in Tyler Goodson. I think he's a preseason Doak Walker Award. I want to say
candidate.
Definitely a candidate, right? And I don't think he's a dark horse. I think he's a candidate, a legitimate candidate at this point. How good, Noah, can Tyler Goodson be?
Well, to say someone is potentially a Doak Walker Award winner, that really means something, because that is the short list of the elite running backs in the NCAA. So that's definitely saying some pretty good things about Tyler Goodson if you're putting him in that kind of conversation.
Yeah. So here's my thing, and again, I don't want to get into speculating about injuries or whatnot. We don't know really Iowa's injury situation. We're probably not going to know Iowa's injury situation minus Kyler Schott until week 1, right? But running back is always that position where you worry about injuries, especially during fall camp. You worry about injuries. Alex and I talked about this last week. And I'd like to get your opinion on this, Noah. When you look at the running back position, Kirk Ferentz stated earlier this, I think it was actually late July at Big Ten Media Days, that they're really not going to be running many tackling plays with their running backs. They're really going to try to avoid injury by not making them be tackled very much. That is a concern of mine. Again, I get what you're doing. You're trying to avoid your backs getting beat up on in preseason. But we saw last year, especially in that Purdue game, fumbling was an issue, or it wasn't even just one or two fumbles we know can change a game. Those are not, Indiana and Iowa State are not the two games you want to have fumbling issues in, or you want to turn the ball over in. So I'm a bit concerned this season. Now, Tyler Goodson typically is very good with the ball, but I'm a bit concerned this season with Iowa, not giving these guys contact as much as maybe you'd like. Your thoughts on that heading into week 1 and 2?
I can definitely see where you're coming from, but at the same time, you have to realize that these guys are experienced. Tyler Goodson, we can go on and on about him. Ivory Kelly Martin is a redshirt senior. He's a good player.
A lot of
injury
injury
what we're
problems.
getting. Yeah. True. And that's probably part of the reason why they're trying to be more careful with the contact with their running backs. So from an injury side, I think it's a good thing, personally, because the less wear and tear on these guys, the better.
They've got more depth there at running back than Iowa does at tight end. Okay. I think we understand that. However, not a very big room. I mean, you've got Tyler Goodson at running back 1. You've got Ivory Kelly Martin at RB2. And after that, it's a lot of pretty much unproven guys. Gavin Williams, LaShawn Williams, Devin Hilson, who was a late enrollee. Am I missing somebody here?
My list only goes to 4 and includes the Williams.
Yeah, I mean, it's Max White, who I believe is a non-scholarship player, and Zach Brand is a non-scholarship player. So it's literally, I mean, it's those 5 guys, and Devin Hilson, again, just got on campus. So you do not want to lose Tyler Goodson. And if you do, you better darn well figure out a way to keep Ivory Kelly Martin healthy. I think we're going to have to see someone else. Gavin Williams is going to have to play. LaShawn Williams is going to have to play. One of those guys is going to have to emerge early
and again,
on.
like you said, these guys are unproven. So it could be that they get thrown into a situation, say, hopefully it doesn't happen, but say Tyler Goodson gets injured, it falls to Ivory Kelly Martin, he needs a break, say Gavin Williams steps in, and he does a great job filling in. It could be that one of these guys is really the next great running back at Iowa in the waiting, and we just haven't seen it yet.
Alex, your thoughts on Ivory Kelly Martin? Again, dealt with injuries a lot. He just is coming off I believe, wasn't an ACL. What is he coming off of? Noah, you look that up real quick.
Yeah.
The injury that Ivory Kelly Martin's coming off of. But where is he at in your mind? Because, 2018, he was the starter. Ivory Kelly Martin was RB1, and that was a group that included Mekhi Sargent. I'm trying to think, who else did that group include? It was Sargent, Kelly Martin, and I'm missing somebody. Oh man, who am I missing? I'm missing somebody in that group. Oh, it was I can picture his face. The guy who quit early, right? That walked away from the game. Oh man. Noah, look up 2018 Iowa depth chart.
Okay.
Man, I can picture his young. First name, Alex. Big guy, right? Young.
I can't remember.
Am I going crazy? Man, I can't. This is not like me.
I haven't been paying attention, trying to look stuff up.
2018 running back depth chart. Running back position. Yeah, and That's frustrating.
Torn
2008.
young.
Torn young. Yeah, I was right. Close. So that was a decent running back room at the time, and Ivory Kelly Martin was number one guy, but again, got hurt. So Alex, where are you at with Kelly Martin here? Most likely his final go round.
Well, he's kind of an interesting cat because it's like we haven't really seen him. We've never really seen him that much of him, I guess, and it almost feels like I know he's had the injury problems. It almost seems like he's never been at full strength. So, I mean, in a way, we hope that we don't have to see him too much because hopefully Goodson stays healthy. But he's a guy like you said who used to be the primary back, and it's nice to have a guy like that as a backup. He's probably a little underrated at this point because people are, I think, used to seeing his name maybe on the depth chart, but haven't seen him a lot lately. But more serious fans know exactly who he is, and he's a good all around back. I mean, he's elusive and quick, and I think he just kind of got between the injuries and just other personnel. I think he kind of just got pushed out a bit. Sargent turned into kind of the guy there for a while. But I think he's a great backup.
So running back, we all feel pretty good about running back. I don't know why a person wouldn't. A little bit, hesitant with depth. Obviously, injuries could cause an issue at tight end or running back. But as far as skill level and experience, I'm comfortable with both those guys.
By the way, no matter how hard I look, I cannot figure out what exactly Kelly Martin's injury was. Everywhere I look, it's just generic knee injury.
And maybe maybe it was an ACL. I don't remember. But whatever it was, you don't want to deal with knee issues as a running back. And so, yeah, I get why Kirk is trying to limit contact for both of those guys. Tyler Goodson might be the best player on offense, or might be the best player on the team, frankly, maybe besides Tyler Linderbaum. And then Ivory Kelly Martin's got a history with injuries. So I get it. I just hope both those guys are secure with the ball early and often.